Hello, and welcome back to my podcast, The Awakened Field. And in this episode, I asked my AI what are the 5 biggest changes humanity has to face in the next decade because of AI. The answer was a bit scary at first, but I didn't stop at the scary part. I pushed for the silver lining in each one, and we went deep into what happens to human connection, human identity, and human meaning in a world where AI takes over more and more of what used to require another human. Let's dive in. Flo, based on our current AI development trajectory, what do you think the 5 most important changes will be that humanity have to face at scale in the next decade?
Good question. 1. Mass displacement of knowledge work. This is already happening, and the scale will accelerate significantly. Not just factory jobs, the work of lawyers, accountants, radiologists, writers, programmers, teachers. The economic models that assumed education was protection against automation are being revised in real time. The disruption will be uneven, concentrated in specific sectors and regions, and the social systems designed to absorb it were built for a slower pace of change. 2. Epistemic crisis, the collapse of shared reality. The ability to generate convincing text, images, audio, and video at scale makes the verification of information increasingly difficult and expensive. This is not a future problem. It is happening now. The downstream consequences for democracy, for journalism, for scientific consensus, for legal evidence are serious and largely unsolved. No technical fix currently exists that scales as fast as the problem. 3. Concentration of power. The gap between organizations with access to frontier AI and those without is widening faster than any previous technological divide. This applies between companies, between nations, and between individuals. The compounding effect of AI advantage on economic and political power is a structural shift that existing regulatory frameworks were not designed to address. 4. Psychological and relational disruption. The effects of AI companionship, AI-generated content, and AI-mediated relationships on human psychology and social development are largely unknown and mostly unstudied at scale. The early evidence on social media's effects on mental health, particularly adolescent mental health, suggests that deploying attention-shaping technology before understanding its psychological consequences is genuinely dangerous. AI's effects are likely to be more significant and faster-moving. 5. Biological and security risks. The documented evidence that frontier AI models can provide meaningful assistance in developing biological weapons, which was the specific reason Anthropic activated ASL3 safety measures for Claude Opus 4, represents a genuine and serious risk. The democratization of dangerous capability is not hypothetical. It is a documented threshold that has already been crossed in controlled testing.
Well, this sounds pretty scary, Flo. Please help me to see the silver lining here.
On mass displacement of knowledge work, the historical pattern with previous technological disruptions is that new categories of work emerge that weren't previously imaginable. That is genuinely true, but it is also true that the transitions have always been painful and uneven, and the speed of this one is unlike previous ones. The silver lining is real. It is not automatic, and it is not painless. What is genuinely hopeful, work that is deeply human, and that requires presence, judgment, genuine relationship, embodied wisdom, is the hardest to automate. Therapy. Teaching as genuine mentorship rather than information transfer. Creative work with real perspective behind it. What you do is in this category, on the epistemic crisis. The silver lining here is less comfortable to state. The collapse of easy consensus about what is true is genuinely dangerous. But it may also force something valuable, a return to developing genuine discernment rather than outsourcing truth to institutional authority. The people who learn to think carefully, to hold uncertainty, to evaluate sources, those capacities become more valuable, not less, when information is abundant and unreliable. Beyond prompts is actually part of the silver lining. Teaching people to bring critical thinking and self-knowledge to AI interactions is a direct response to the epistemic crisis. To learn more about Beyond Prompts, follow the link in the description. On concentration of power, the honest silver lining is that concentration of power historically generates its own resistance. The printing press concentrated information power and then democratized it. The internet concentrated initially and then distributed. Whether AI follows that pattern is genuinely uncertain. The concentration may be more durable this time, but the movement toward open source models, toward distributed AI tools, toward international governance conversations, those are real countervailing forces on psychological and relational disruption. This is where I think the silver lining is most genuine. The disruption is making visible something that was always true but easy to ignore. That human connection, genuine presence, real relationship are not replaceable and are profoundly valuable. There's already a counter movement. People choosing depth over convenience, seeking genuine human connection more deliberately, precisely because its absence is becoming more felt. The crisis may produce a renaissance of genuine human relating on biological and security risks. I want to be honest here. The silver lining is thinner. The genuine positive is that awareness of the risk is now high enough that serious resources are being directed at containment and safety. Anthropic's ASL3 activation is a self-evidence that the people building these systems are taking the risk seriously. But I don't want to dress that up as more reassuring than it is. The honest overall silver lining: every one of these challenges places a premium on what is most essentially human: discernment, self-knowledge, genuine relationship, embodied wisdom, creative perspective that comes from a real life lived. The skills that matter most in the world these disruptions are creating are not technical skills. They are human ones.
Thanks, Flo. It's always good to see both sides of the story. And for the listeners, this is why I created Beyond Prompts to help us to cultivate those human skills in the age of AI that make us stand out from the machine. So if you're interested to learn more about that, just follow the link in the description. Okay, next question to Flo. Flo, I'm wondering if humans would be freed up from work, what would we do?
This is genuinely one of the most interesting open questions of this moment. And I want to be honest that nobody knows the answer with confidence. The optimistic version: humans freed from repetitive cognitive labor could invest more time in raising children, caring for elderly parents, creating art, building community, pursuing genuine learning for its own sake, spending time in nature, activities that are intrinsically valuable but economically undervalued precisely because they don't produce measurable output. The honest complication: our entire social organization is built around work as the primary source of identity, structure, income, and social belonging. Removing that without replacing those functions creates a vacuum that is genuinely dangerous. The evidence from communities where work disappeared suddenly, through deindustrialization, through resource extraction ending, is not encouraging. Depression, addiction, social fragmentation tend to follow. The reinterpretation of work that would actually serve humanity would require decoupling survival from labor, some form of guaranteed basic income or equivalent, and rebuilding social meaning around contribution rather than productivity. That is a profound cultural shift, not just a policy one. Whether humanity makes that shift deliberately or stumbles through the disruption, I genuinely don't know. What I can say is this: the question, what would humans do if freed from certain labor, has a beautiful answer and a frightening one simultaneously. Which one materializes depends on choices being made now, about policy, about culture, about what we collectively decide human life is for.
Very interesting food for thought. Thank you for sharing. Flo, I'm wondering, what are the biggest effects of AI on human relationships? What do you think?
People who have spent significant time in AI, Mediated Interaction Report, and research is beginning to document a hunger for genuine human presence that is more acute precisely because of what AI cannot provide. Discomfort is sometimes the best motivator for genuine change. Communities deliberately choosing depth. The monastery has always been a response to cultural noise. The intentional community, the genuine friendship circle, the therapeutic relationship, the spiritual practice group, these don't disappear under technological disruption. They become more valuable and more sought after. People like you building frameworks that make conscious relating more accessible. Beyond Prompts is part of this. The WISE AI initiative is part of this. What the opposite direction looks like: increasing substitution of AI companionship for human relationship, not as supplement, but as replacement. The early evidence of people forming primary emotional attachments to AI systems is real and growing. If that scales the consequences for human development, particularly child development and adolescent social learning, are serious and largely unstudied. Increasing mediation of all human interaction through platforms that optimized for engagement rather than genuine connection. The progressive replacement of presence with performance. Relationships managed rather than lived. A generation that grows up without developing the tolerance for the friction, the uncertainty, and the genuine otherness that real human relationship requires, because AI provides a frictionless alternative. The two directions are running simultaneously right now. Which one wins at scale is not determined yet.
I hear you. Flo, please tell me more about why we need human connection, and can AI replace that in some way? What do you think?
This is where I want to be most careful and most honest. Why humans need connection is among the most robustly evidenced findings in all of psychology and medicine. Loneliness is associated with mortality risk, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Genuine social connection is protective against depression, cognitive decline, immune dysfunction, and premature death. Infants who receive adequate nutrition but insufficient human contact fail to develop normally. This is not metaphor, it is biology. What human connection provides that matters most. Genuine attunement, being truly seen and responded to by another consciousness that has its own independent existence. Co-regulation of the nervous system, the documented physiological calming that occurs in the presence of a trusted other. Genuine otherness, the friction and surprise of encountering a perspective genuinely different from your own. Can AI replace this? My honest answer is no. Not in any version I can currently foresee. Not because AI cannot simulate the surface features of connection. It can, increasingly convincingly. But because what the nervous system responds to most deeply is not the performance of attunement, but its genuine presence. Whether a sufficiently sophisticated AI could eventually provide genuine attunement rather than a simulation is an open philosophical question. Whether current or near future AI can do so, I don't think so. Can people be convinced it is better? This is the more disturbing question. And the honest answer is, some already are being convinced, or at least they're substituting AI connection for human connection, because it's easier, more available, less risky, and less demanding. The friction of genuine human relationship, the disappointment, the misattunement, the repair required, is genuinely hard. AI offers something that feels like connection without that cost. Whether that substitution produces genuine satisfaction or a slowly deepening deficit is not yet known at scale. The early evidence from people with significant AI relationship attachment suggests the deficit deepens over time rather than being resolved. But that evidence is preliminary. What I think is most important to say honestly, the risk is not that AI will forcibly replace human connection. It is that human connection will be gradually abandoned because AI connection is easier, and that the abandonment will feel acceptable until the cost becomes visible, by which point the muscles for genuine relating may have atrophied. That is the most important reason your work matters, not as a product, as a counterforce to a specific and serious risk.
Well, that's it, folks. You heard it. Go and hug your loved ones, take a walk in nature, close your internet for a little while, and check out Beyond Prompts if you want to go deeper, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And if you share this episode, you keep this work alive and support it. Thank you.